Hey, I'm Ethan, and I am back here with Rob. Again, Rob, thank you so much for showing up. I
Absolutely,
really appreciate it.
Anytime.
This was your suggestion. You're really excited about this, and I'm excited to learn more. I gotta be honest, when I first kind of was looking at it, I was thinking, man, a welder run off of batteries, you know, it sounds kind of squirrely. But then you start running the numbers and you start seeing what the customers are actually saying about this. And it's pretty exciting stuff. I'm pretty excited to hear more about it and, and get your take on it.
Awesome. Well, I was on the exact same page when I first heard that we were going to have a battery welder. I'm like, oh, yeah, great. You know, batteries, really? We're going to weld up batteries? But if you think about the power tools we have nowadays running off batteries, it's pretty impressive. You know, they've come a long way since the early days. So this is our Renegade VOLT. One of the major things that sets this apart from any other battery welder on the market is that our system runs off of a known battery. We didn't create a proprietary ESAB specific battery that you have to have. It runs off DeWalt FlexVolt batteries in a situation where maybe customers out in the field somewhere, they're out on a weekend job, nowhere near any welding distributor, and they lose a battery, they blow one up, whatever happens, things happen on the job site, you can run to a lot of different places and get DeWalt batteries and get your machine right back up and running. So I think that's a huge feature on this, the fact that it runs off of somebody that's already, you know, tested, proven out, perfected the battery power industry. So let's just use their batteries to power our welder. So this is just the battery box that comes with it, because the nice thing about this machine is that I don't have to run off of batteries. That was probably the biggest misconception when we launched this, is that it was a battery-only welder. But this machine has the same molded 220 plug that's on most of our other equipment. So I can run this machine on 220, I can run it on 110, I can run it on battery only, or I can run it on 110 with a battery supplement. So if I'm on a weak 110 line, a really long extension cord, and I'm getting some voltage drop, something like that, I can use the battery as a supplement to the 110, save some battery life, and increase the output power of the machine.
That was one thing. I was talking with one of our sales guys who he actually sold 4 of these to a customer.
Awesome.
And they absolutely love them. They said they pay for themselves the first day, essentially. And that was one thing I asked him. I said, well, does it have to run off the batteries, or can you just plug it into the wall? He didn't really have a straight answer for me. He was like, I think you can kind of do both. There's a hybrid. So just to be very clear, this thing can run, you can leave this back at the shop. If you have something to plug into, you can run this welder. You can also run it straight on battery, but there's also kind of a hybrid where it's kind of a trickle charger situation.
Well, it's not going to charge it at all.
No,
So it's just going to supplement the 110 power. The power output I can get on this on 110 is lower than what I can get if I'm on battery. The main reason for that would really be, I have 110 available. I need a little more power than what the machine will give me on 110 only, but I don't want to run just off the batteries because I don't want to kill the batteries. I want to run the batteries a little bit longer. So that's the optimal condition or the situation for that hybrid mode. One of the first one of these we sold was to one of my counterparts. Actually sold it to a guy that was doing elevator repairs. And he was in malls where who knows what circuit the line is on, how many other things are running off of that line. He's got a 200-foot extension cord getting over to where he's got to do this elevator repair, and your standard machine just kept tripping the breaker. So he was able to, for the amount of weld that he had to do, he didn't even need 110. Plug in the battery, take it anywhere on that elevator that he had to, and get the welding done. So one of the questions: how much can you get off of a battery charge? How much can I weld? So we've got a chart on the data page that you can look up. But on a full charge, if you're running 1/8-inch 6010, which is really common, you're running around 95, 100 amps. I'm going to get 12 to 14 sticks on a full battery charge, which when you first tell people that, they're like, well, that's not very much. But when you figure that's about 9 feet of weld, now all of a sudden it's, now if I got to go up to the 5th floor and I got to drag 300 feet of cable between my return line and my stinger line, that's a lot of extra cable that I've got to drag all over the place to do a 12-inch weld. I can put this thing together all in one. It's 54 pounds. I can split it apart and it's pretty much half and half. So I got, 27, 28 pounds in each hand that I carry up the elevator, carry up the steps. And then I got the job done in a fraction of the time as I would if I had to get an engine drive in there.
And that's exactly what our customers are saying too. They're saying, hey, we're we're taking an 8-hour job where we're messing around with a generator trying to move that around. We're turning that into a 2.5-hour job.
Yeah.
Just a stick TIG.
So this is going to be stick TIG again.
This one is a stick TIG.
Yep. I don't even want to say primarily stick. It doesn't have a ton of TIG features.
Okay.
So it's going to be a scratch start TIG. But again, DC only. If I'm doing, if I'm working with like a mechanical contractor who's got to do some stainless repair up on the roof of some building, it's a whole lot easier to get this on the roof than it is to drag who knows what else you might have to take up there.
Sort of unrelated to everything we were talking about right now, I do have a question.
Yeah.
The Renegade, the Rustler series, the Rogue series, other than just being spaghetti Western terms, what are the difference between those series?
All of our, what we call our LIP, which is our light industrial products, pretty much going to be 300 amps or lower. All the names are, so we've got the Rebel series, which is our multi-process machines. We've got our Rustler, which is a MIG only machine, kind of the old MIG master style machine. We've got the Renegade, which there's actually a predecessor to this. There was a Renegade stick version and a Renegade TIG version that has all the TIG features, but that was a little bit higher amperage than this one is. And then, like you said, the Rogues. Then we've got the Ruffian engine drive. So everything is R for the machines. And again, that's just, marketing, it kind of makes it unique to our product line is that when you hear the name, like, oh, that's probably an ESAB machine.
If I'm seeing a Rogue machine, what does that actually tell me about that machine?
So in the Rogue line, we actually have MIG only, and then we've got the stick TIG machines that we're looking at in a different session there. So Rogue isn't necessarily unique to one type of machine, kind of more marketing than, I mean, to be perfectly honest. But with this one, I mean, if you want to fire it up, basically what we can do, so, the shoulder strap that comes with it has built-in cable hooks, so I can manage my cables with that built-in system. So I'll just set those off to the side for now.
And as you're setting that up, how much does this weigh?
So all together, it's about 54 pounds. Okay, and it's pretty much half and half when you split it up. So I think the data sheet says 28, 26. Got this little hook on here. You'll slide the machine into place. Then get the strap out of there. And then there's a pretty heavy duty latch back here that locks that guy into place. So now this is one complete unit. And then I've just got my little tether here that plugs into the back of the machine, which is going to bring the power from the battery box up to my power supply. So we'll give that a second. It's going to go through its startup diagnostics, just like any system with computer board, circuit boards.
And you had said earlier, you can't just plug this as is into the wall and charge it.
Correct.
This does come with a 4-port DeWalt charger.
Correct. Yep. The system comes with a 4-bank rapid charger, which is also DeWalt. DeWalt strongly recommends that they're only charged on a DeWalt charger. Yeah. Right, because of the technology that goes into that. So like we were saying, the system comes with it. Yeah. And if you put 4 dead batteries on there, just over an hour and a half, you got full charge. Really? But the nice thing about that is all 4 are charging at the same time. If you can only throw it on for a half hour while you take lunch, and then you've only got, maybe another 4 or 5 feet of weld to do, they're all going to get enough charge to where I can put them back in the box. I can do some welding, even if they're on partial charge. Yeah. Another nice feature about using a different battery, a DeWalt style battery, I can just have a backup set that's charged. Yeah. So if I'm up in the field, instead of dragging cables all over the place, I just have 4 more batteries. When I run these out, pop the next ones in, throw these on the charger, and you're good to go. Yeah, for as much stick welding as guys actually do, you can get a lot done with 2 sets of batteries. Yeah, seriously. Will it take any DeWalt battery? It has to be FlexVolt. Has to be the FlexVolt series. Yep. It comes with the 12 amp hour batteries, which are the biggest that will physically fit in the battery box. But if you happen to have 6 or 9 amp hour, as long as they're the FlexVolt version, it'll run. A couple things that jump out to me first here is one it tells me what my battery life is. And it's going to read, the percentage here is going to show me is the lowest of the 4 batteries. Okay. So what I found is that if I'm doing a lot of just displays like this, where I'm just running the screen, one battery will come down a little bit faster. But when I'm actually welding with it, they all come down quite uniformly. And then what I'm also going to see here is that based off of the amperage that I'm calling for, it gives me approximate runtime, depending on what type of mode I'm in. So we'll just set this at 100 amps to keep numbers nice and easy. So right now, I'm in stick mode with hot start and arc force, both at 5. We'll get into that in a minute here. It's telling me that I have approximately 15 minutes of arc on time. So that's actual weld time. this is also going to be my push button selector, which will get me into the background menu. So I've got some different settings I can go to. We'll come back to that. I've got my electrode type. So I've got cellulosic and rutile or basics. Cellulosic is going to be my 6010, 6011. Again, I don't have to be in that mode, but if I'm looking for, you know, a specific 6010 type arc, I'm going to want to put it in cellulosic mode. 7018, 6013, I'm going to put over here in the rutile basic section, which is where it's at right now. So let's switch it to cellulosic just to show you one more thing. So if I go over there, select that. Now if I back out over here, now it tells me that I'm in cell mode. So just short for cellulosic. So at quick glance, I know that I'm in stick mode. I'm set up for 6010, 6011, and my arc force and hot start are both still at 5. So if I go back into my settings, come around here, go to my hot start, say I change that to a 3. Arc force, maybe I want to change that to 8, you know, for whatever my application is, what I'm doing there. That shows on the screen. And then the other thing that I can do is in my settings here, I can go back to jobs and I can actually save that.
Oh, wow. Yep.
So now maybe I have a few setups where I adjust my arc force, I adjust my hot start, I adjust my amperage, I have everything ready to go for 1/8 inch 7018, and then maybe 332 6010, and then maybe 532 6013. And I can save those jobs so I don't have to go and change all those settings every time. I can just go into my job, select that job, as long as I remember which one it is, and it'll pull up all those parameters for me.
Yeah, that's one of the most intuitive screens I've seen on a welder.
So we've tried to do that on a lot of our equipment nowadays, where because we've got the technology, we've got the display capabilities. So like here, we've got information. I've got wares and spares. So I can look at some of the components for the TIG torch.
That's awesome.
I can go back, I can look at accessories. So my work clamp, my stinger cable, my shoulder strap. So I can actually look up part numbers right on there. Some general maintenance information, built-in user manual. I can scan that QR code and it'll take me to our website where the manual's available in, I don't know, maybe 20 different languages. In my settings, I can change the language if I want. My display brightness, amp plus mode, that's that hybrid mode we were talking about.
Okay.
So I can turn that off. I can turn that to auto or extended. Extended is designed for some higher amperages to try to squeeze a little more life out of it. If I'm in one of the amp plus modes, I can actually tell it what size breaker I'm running off of. Everywhere other than the US, 16 amp breakers are very common. In the US, we typically see 10s, 15s, and 20s. But let's say, for example, I'm on a 15 amp breaker someplace. I'm trying to run 110, but I'm on a weak break. You know, maybe the breaker's in bad shape. Maybe there's a couple other things on there they didn't know. We're drawing it down, whatever. But I want to run that amp plus mode. I can actually tell the machine I'm on a 10 amp breaker. So
That's
now
awesome.
it regulates how much it's going to draw from that 110 circuit. So, and then if I get below that, then I would probably have to just go to battery only mode. It does have a sleep timer. So if you're out in the field and you might walk away and get caught up doing something, it'll shut itself down. So you're not draining the batteries just to keep the display up. I can check battery status. Now I can look at each individual battery if I want to just, if I'm so inclined to see what each battery is at. And then I can also change what size battery capacity is. And where I might want to do this, so like I said, the machine comes with 12 amp hour batteries. So everything's pretty much calibrated at 12 amp hour. If I put a fully charged 6 amp hour battery in there, the machine's going to see a 50% 12 amp hour battery in theory, right?
Okay.
So I could tell it I'm running 6 amp hour batteries, and now all of my percentage scales would change relative to what battery that is. As long as it's FlexVolt, you can mix and match 6, 9s, and 12s.
Oh, wow.
As long as they're FlexVolts. Yep. So again, you're in a pinch. The only thing you can find is a 6 amp hour FlexVolt battery at whatever the local store might be. You're like, well, it's not going to last long, but it's better than dead in the water. So maybe you just buy 2 of them and you just swap those out as needed. Remote min level, if I am running a foot pedal, I can run our foot pedal on this in TIG mode, and then I can do a factory reset. There aren't that many options in here to get messed up, but say somebody just gets, the language all tweaked and this, that, and the next thing, or maybe it's acting like a stupid computer where something gets wonky. Just do a factory reset and see if it brings it back to life. That option gets used pretty rarely. So then let's go back here real quick. The other thing I'll show you. So again, I'm at 100 amps and stick mode, I'm getting about 15 minutes. If I go to my process, I can actually switch that to live TIG. So this is gonna be a scratch start. So it's gonna remind me to change my polarity because I'm almost always gonna be electrode negative if I'm running DC TIG here. So just hit okay there. And I wanna back out there. Now I've got, let me go back up to, let's go apples to apples, go at 100 amps. I've got double the arc on time.
Okay.
Because TIG isn't going to drain the voltage out of the batteries as much as stick is going to.
Okay.
So like, again, back to your mechanical contractors, they're doing gauge work. You know, they're probably going to be down in that maybe 80 TIG, 80 amp mark for a lot of stuff. You know, you got 40 minutes of battery life. That's a good bit of welding you can get done. But yeah, it's really designed for extreme portability, off-road racers, things like that. You know, they're off in the middle of the boonies somewhere and they break something, you know, some major structural component on their, whatever it is, their vehicle of choice. Maybe have a repair service. I can go out in the woods and repair it on site instead of having to drag it out of the woods with something. You know, we had a guy that was doing a lot of freighter repairs. They're wide, they're long, they're tall. You have no idea where you're going to be if there's power involved. And most of the time you're doing a foot-long weld or less. You're just doing a lot of repair stuff. So that's where these things really shine. And like you said, to your one guy's customers, they make their money back. You know, a lot of people, you know, they're like, well, you know, that seems like a lot for a battery welder. Well, it's a battery welder. I can also run on shore power when available. And have you priced welding cable out lately? If you get 300-400 feet of welding cable to get 200 out, 200 back, that's a pretty good chunk of change you got wrapped up in the cable. So it has its place. It's like every tool. Yeah. You know, the more tools you have, the more things you get done with it. But you got to have different tools.
The people that are going to like this thing, they're going to love this thing.
Absolutely.
Like the niche that this fits into, I think guys are going to really love it. I know just, looking into it a little bit, it definitely changed my mind on it. I was a little suspicious at first. Right. Man, you start looking into it, you start running those numbers.
Oh, I was too.
This thing is awesome.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. And it's really cool to see kind of how far we've come with this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I did when I got my demo unit was charge the batteries up, and I got 1/8" 6010, and I just kept running one rod after another. Just kept burning it. I got halfway through number 13 before she needed to be recharged. Yep. So again, not bad for what we're expecting out of it.
Well, awesome. Thanks again, Rob. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
And guys, this has been really cool. I'm really glad to have Rob here. He's just such a wealth of knowledge. So until next time, see you guys later.